What's up, guys? I haven't done a Panther video in a while because I was taught if you don't have anything good to say, don't say anything at all. And frankly, the last 3, 4, 5 weeks of Carolina Panther football has been probably the worst I've ever seen, and even the Jimmy Clausen era, because in the Jimmy Clausen era, or that 2010, we weren't really supposed to be good, and it was just gross. And this year, starting 3-0, and then it falling apart like a cheap tent, and playing musical quarterbacks, zero continuity on the offensive line, with COVID and injuries and interesting coaching decisions. It's been really rough, obviously, but there's always positives in the darkest days, and I'll give you a couple before I get into what's been gross on the field. A couple of really big positives. DJ Moore being that number one guy, third consecutive season, eclipsing the 1,000-yard mark, and being able to do that with this QB carousel is phenomenally impressive, and doing it on a bum hamstring the last couple of weeks, that's a gamer, that's a leader, and you got to give props to DJ for that. The third Panther to have 3 1,000-yard seasons. Steve Smith and Greg Olsen, I believe, were the other two. Jeremy Chin eclipsing 100 tackles. The third Panther to do that as well in consecutive seasons. Thomas Davis and John Beeson, I believe, were those two. And Brian Burns reaching his second Pro Bowl, having a monster season, been a stalwart on that defensive front. And we've got some great pieces on the defensive front, hoping Hassan Reddick decides to come back long term, because he's been a absolute monster. And Yetur Gross-Matos, Jared Brown, Brian Burns, J.C. Horn coming back. There's some pieces to build around on the defense, and the defense has not been the problem for the majority of the season. Offensively, it's been an absolute joke, a clown show. Not fair to any of the quarterbacks we've tried. Sam Darnold, Cam Newton, PJ Watt. It's not fair. I just want us to pick a direction and see what we've got. I get that we have Sam Darnold under contract for next year, and you need to see if he's the answer, or if you need to go another direction. But continuing to swap out quarterbacks at random times, this helps nobody, and it sure as heck doesn't help the offensive coordinator, because you can't get any rhythm. It throws the dynamic of the offensive line, wide receivers, all that stuff, because you got two different quarterbacks with completely different skill sets. Cam Newton and PJ Walker are slightly similar. Yes, Sam Darnold has used his legs at times effectively this year, but it's just been ridiculous. Matt Rule needs to choose one and see what he's got for 2022, because we've got Sam Darnold under contract for 2022. But to be fair to the quarterbacks and the offensive coordinator and all of that, this offensive line has been one of the worst statistically in NFL history. And I know offensive line is one of the hardest positions to play and get right, but that needs to be fixed before we can even talk about having consistent play at the quarterback position. Do I think Sam Darnold's the answer? No, but I don't think anybody's the answer behind what we're putting out right now. And we really need to address that. You've got Taylor Moton, and that's about it. I mean, Brady Christensen has had some moments, and I think, 11 different O-line combinations in 14 weeks is just not fair to anybody. Although I really want us to move on from Matt Rule, the one thing that will tell me that I'll be okay if we go with him another year is that he gets the roster and personnel decisions completely stripped away from him. He'll get some input, but it needs to come from Dan Morgan and Scott Fitter, because I love what they did with our draft last year. It was basically an expansion draft, getting us 11 players and getting great depth at every position. And some of the trades that we made were great at the time, but now we only have one pick in the first 100. Hopefully it'll be a top 10 in an offensive lineman, but Scott Fitter needs to be able to put his fingerprints completely on this without some backlash from Matt Rule or Dave Tepper, for that matter, in the moves that he makes, because I think he's very, very smart football mind, along with Dan Morgan, and I feel like he needs the keys to the car, so to speak, in that realm. So if we're gonna have Matt Rule back for another year, that's my stipulation for that, because he did give us some great players and some great depth at every position, and obviously the health of Christian McCaffrey and what we do with Christian McCaffrey is going to be key, because unfortunately the injury bug has hit him like a brick wall. But I think we can help that, because he needs to be in space. We can use Chuba Hubbard in those third and shorts and things of that nature. Christian McCaffrey is a dynamic game breaker when he's on the field, but we've got to be able to help him out, and continually banging into an offensive line that doesn't create a lot of holes hasn't helped his injury history. So again, you go back to the offensive line. It starts at both fronts, and defensive line-wise, we're pretty solid there. We probably could use another middle linebacker and some beef there as well. But offensive line is the biggest thing, and we've got to figure out the third quarter. We average this season a half point in the third quarters. What is that even? I remember watching the Manning brothers their Monday night cast, and they say that you can't really make a lot of adjustments coming out of half, because it's only 15 minutes. But you kind of have to look at the way the game is flowing. But the problem is with the Panthers, we don't really have an identity. Matt Rule says he wants to run the ball 35 times, and then we end up passing the ball 40 times. There's got to be some balance, and I hope there will be some changes on the coaching staff, Matt Rule or not, because I think there needs to be a meeting of the minds to find the direction, because right now it feels like we're directionless, and obviously the offensive line is the biggest of big issues, but we've got to find a direction, because I don't know if I can take another year of this. I'm not taking 7 years. I don't care if that's Matt Rule's master plan. He's got to turn it around quickly, because this is just not Carolina Panther football, not high school football for that matter right now, and the rotating quarterback thing, that's got to change, and that's never got to happen again, because it just makes us look really unprepared and really gross. And we've got to fix the little things, but again, that comes back to finding an identity, and right now, I don't know what that is, but there's got to be a meeting of the minds between Dave Tepper, Fitter, Dan Morgan, and Matt Rule. If we're rolling back with Matt Rule again, not that I want it, but this year has been consistently inconsistent with COVID injuries and everything, the uncontrollable factors. So I think that's why Matt Rule gets another year. But if it doesn't become more consistent quickly, it could be fire him within 5 games. But starting 3-0 and just having it fall apart like it has, and just be embarrassing at times, and it's not fair to DJ Moore. It's not fair to Tommy Trimble, who I really like, and his blocking has been amazing. And I think he could possibly be a really, really good piece. Shuba Hubbard as well. There's pieces on offense. The offensive line needs to be fixed, and just an identity, an absolute identity. And maybe you take a page from the Miami Dolphins book. They don't really have a great offensive line, but they use the quick passes, and you've got Christian McCaffrey, DJ Moore, Robbie Anderson that can make those quick passes turn into solid gains and rely on the running game a little bit. So I hope that will eventually be the identity, but the Carolina Panthers have been awful to watch, and I've never sugarcoated it, but this year is wow and ugliness. But we're always gonna keep pounding. Go Panthers, and Scott Fitter and Dan Morgan will work their magic, and I hope we are in the conversation for a playoff spot next year. Hopefully with the top 5 pick this year, and just forget about 2021 season. Flush it, learn from it, and take the positives individually and for our players, because there's been a lot of great individual moments, but we got to come together as a team, got to find an identity. As always, keep pounding, go Panthers, always and forever.